Walkabout along with the Minister of Health, the voice of Ramaphosa. You would have heard at the beginning of that story, but now we cross to our other reporter, Anda Nqonji, who is at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium where the President just concluded his visit there. A very good afternoon to you, Anda. I know that you and Rato have been closely following the President's movements in the Eastern Cape. Just take us through his itinerary and really what his thoughts were as he was walking around in the hospitals. I did hear him asking a couple of questions from some of the medical staff there, but really give us an overview of the President's walkabout and inspections today.
Well, a very good afternoon to you. We are indeed coming live to you from the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, recently converted into a COVID-19 quarantine site for COVID-19 patients, particularly for those who have not yet displayed any symptoms and for those who are awaiting results but could not self-quarantine or self-isolate from home. We have seen the President brief the media just a couple of minutes back, where he was saying that he has actually been impressed with the progress so far made by the Eastern Cape government regarding monitoring the COVID-19 virus or the progress of the COVID-19. This despite obviously the spike in numbers for people who have the COVID-19 here in the Eastern Cape, with the recent numbers indicating that there are over 1,500 people who are or have been tested positive in this province. The President, however, was very impressed with the plan that was put in place, or that was given by the Premier, who was the first person to give a presentation in terms of where the Eastern Cape is and the progress it is making in taking care of those patients and in their attempts to curb the numbers, and the facilities that have been introduced to make sure that there is sufficient help or assistance for COVID-19 patients, even those that are not ready enough or who might come from the poorest conditions and are not able to self-isolate from home. The President did also mention the fact that the Eastern Cape is very ready in terms of reviving the economy should things progress or should this virus progress. He was very impressed and mentioned that he is happy with the Eastern Cape. But let me mention to you that, he indeed started at the Livingstone Hospital, which was first identified as a quarantine site for those who have been found to be positive of COVID-19, particularly those who might be needing things like ventilators and oxygen, meaning that particularly the cases that are more severe, that site was the first place to be identified. After that, it was the Nelson Mandela Stadium, which also shows great unity between the Nelson Mandela municipality and the Department of Health. We have had an opportunity to walk inside the stadium to see what exactly has been done in preparation for patients, and we have been made aware that there are already patients who are already staying here or who have been sent to this particular place, particularly from areas where there's a number of people or congestion and a number of people in their homes. We have walked inside and we have seen the beds. The equipment is of full standard, which is likely to be accredited or attributed to the fact that the Eastern Cape government has set aside 50 million rands to take care of infrastructure. As you know, that is one of the challenges in a place that is dominated by rural areas like the Eastern Cape. But, the department has been doing an excellent job, according to the President, to try and convert certain areas, with also a field hospital recently introduced in the Nelson Mandela Bay, where a company in Germany or the government managed to get funding of over 100 million from Germany. So, those are some of the things that the President did touch on, saying that he was really impressed so far, and saying that, with some issues, obviously there will be a national intervention. For an example, if I may take you back earlier on when the Premier gave the presentation, he did mentioned that some of the main challenges will have to be the issue of schools, particularly in rural schools, which were lacking in terms of infrastructure, in terms of basic things like water and sanitation, things that are very necessary at this point in time. And, with the prediction or estimation that children might be going back to school on the 1st of June, it is quite an alarming factor or a concerning factor for the government in the Eastern Cape. But they mentioned yesterday, prior to the president's visit, that some of the things that they appreciate about this visit in particular is that it will give them an opportunity to speak to the president and seek national intervention, which is something that is very much needed. They did also touch on the Department of Correctional Services. We have seen quite a spike in terms of numbers of inmates, particularly in the Buffalo City and also in the Nelson Mandela Bay, and the staff that has contracted the virus, which was also seen as a huge problem, but also that factor has been stated that it will be dealt with, or it has been stated that it is an issue that is of concern and an area that will be visited and that will be dealt with in terms of a number reduction in the correctional services. But the overall visit today saw the president actually impressed, but also stating that in terms of the alarming areas, obviously the Eastern Cape will be getting intervention, especially now that we are looking at, the country opening bit by bit, going to a level 3. So it is no wonder that they might look at focusing on some of the epicenters, like particularly the Nelson Mandela Bay, making sure that when that finally happens, the Nelson Mandela Bay is also regulated and also the numbers are being taken care of and continue to be curbed. Back to you.
All right, thank you so very much for that in-depth update from you there in the Eastern Cape. That's Anda Nqonji, who is at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, and of course with our other colleague and reporter Ramaphosa. We'll certainly catch up with the two of you later on in the day. Thank you so very much for that, Anda.